Hey, everybody. Welcome to the BA Zone's pre-show. Hello, hello, hello. I just drove Kathleen crazy for a few minutes. She's on the back end testing the sound, and I was busy just typing away, not paying any attention to the time. And she thought the whole sound was, shot to hell. So we're just, she'll be on in she'll get us going just like 2 minutes live. See, when you don't pay attention, there are issues. Everybody's talking about the football, not paying attention, actually. Actually, I'm talking about the New Orleans game and the way that guy was body checked. And there was no, it's all about rules. And there was no rules to re-review that play. And everybody's up in arms. And, if they had some good requirements there, they would know that, well, it's a bit of a stretch. I know it's a sports stretch, just trying to put it out there, having a great Tuesday. But, yeah, so I know they don't like to do all those re-reviews of those sports things because it really makes those games really long. And I guess airtime is kind of expensive, but I guess they're going to have to put some rules in place because it was sort of a bad miss. Not a good thing. But anyway, I digress. Tonight's show, we're going to be talking about when to use or how to decide when to use a full requirements document versus a streamlined sort of mini version of the document, and some of the things that you can look for in order to make that decision. It's not always about these huge documents. So we're going to get going. Oh, actually, it's 8 o'clock. And Kathleen, I guess I just want to double check with Kathleen, make sure we are live everywhere. And if you can just confirm that, I'll get going with the show. She's always on mute. All right. Well, we're going to assume that everybody's up and live because that's the easy way. And again, welcome to the BA Zone's live show, actually. My name is Miriam Morrison. My cohort, Kathleen Sinnott, is behind the scenes working on all of the technical aspects. And tonight's show, if you just didn't catch it a second ago, we're going to be talking about a full requirements document versus a streamlined mini requirements document. As you know, creating requirements is sort of an iterative process, starting from the high level understanding of the business requirements, which are broken down into the rules and, the components, the features, use cases, flows, etc. But are full requirements documents always necessary? No, absolutely not. In certain situations, smaller abbreviated requirements are perfectly acceptable and often really appreciated by everyone, especially developers. But how do you decide when to use a streamlined version of requirements and how much is enough to get the job done? So that's what we're going to be talking about tonight. But before we do that, put your hands in the air like you just don't care while Kathleen spins that intro for us. So Kathleen, take it away. Sometimes with that intro, I almost feel like it's like the beginning of the show Dynasty or one of those, really old soap things, but it's kind of fun. So not every situation or every enhancement or project that we work on requires a full requirements document, a full-blown set from soup to nuts. But how do you know when to create that streamlined mini version? And what do you put in it? So we've created sort of, this list of top 10 things that you should consider when you're deciding whether to use a streamlined or mini requirements document instead of that full-blown template. So let's get right into it. So if you're trying to decide whether to use this big requirement or this little tiny requirement, the first thing you want to consider is the rationale, the need, the objective, the why of the requirement. Is it well defined by the user? That's the first step. The user has to really know what they need and be able to articulate what they need. And it needs to be, a small articulation. It can't be a giant project that you would need a huge requirements document for. But if you don't clearly understand, if the user doesn't clearly understand why they're doing something, there is no way that you're going to be able to provide concise, clear requirements that are small and to the point. So that's the number one thing. Number two, as a BA, you have to have a clear understanding of the existing system and all of its components and all of its tie-ins to other applications and other components in order to be able to make that judgment call as to whether this particular request is going to affect a lot of things, right? So you have to fully understand how those requirements will impact the system and maybe other requirements that may already be in the works or that are planned to be in the works. So those are the two highest level things. Then you have to start to look at things that impact. So is there a minimum number of rules, and are they simple rules? And that could be business rules, functional rules, validation rules, whatever type of rules they are. They can't be so complex that they can't be handled within a smaller document. And they can't be dependent on multiple variables, that become so extensive that you just have, 30 pages. Well, that's not a mini requirement. We're trying to keep a mini requirement fairly small, 10, 15 pages type of thing. Another thing to consider is, are there a low number of decision points or branching logic? So if you find when you're going through a flow or through a request, if the enhancement itself has a lot of questions or a lot of decisions that need to be made as part of the progress, or that you're seeing a lot of action verbs being used, which will indicate you would probably have some type of a lot of branching logic. So if your process is heavily dependent on event-driven triggers, or multiple system responses, then a mini requirement may not work for you. You may need to go to a more expansive document. Number 4 in the list to consider, is this particular enhancement have a low impact to the rest of the application? So what we like to call, are we implementing sort of easy, low-hanging fruit, things that aren't going to touch a lot of other pieces of the application? One small change can have an impact on multiple screens within your application. And that might become more complex and require a fuller requirements document. And also when you're looking at those impacts, never forget you have reporting, any type of reporting or data warehouse backend stuff. Another thing that you want to have a low amount of or none are interdependencies with other applications or processes, whether they be internal or external to the application that you're working in. Right, so you want that number 4 was that low impact to the rest of your application that you're working in, and number 5 is low to no interdependencies outside of that application with everything else. Again, one small change can have a huge impact on downstream processes or applications, hardware needs, everything. Are there handoffs to other systems or other applications? You want to have a minimum of those. You're looking for a minimum amount of touch points when you're looking to use a mini requirement. Otherwise, you have to document a lot more things, or you might miss it, or it might not be tested correctly. So again, you're looking for low impact, low interdependencies. You're also looking, number 6 would be any movement of data. The movement of data is minimal and well-defined. If the movement of the data to support the request is complex or lengthy, you may need to elaborate on the requirements, and a mini document may not be the right place to do that. Another good step would be to create, number 7, to create a clear test case or test scenario from your requirement. Are you able to do that? And if you can't, you're going to need to drill down on those requirements if it doesn't make sense. And this includes negative as well as positive testing, the positive path, the negative path. That's a really good indication if you try to validate the requirement through a test scenario or a test case, and you look at it and you say, yeah, okay, this needs a lot more steps than I had thought it would, which could mean that I might need to create a much bigger requirements document. Number 8 on our list of mini or maxi. 8 is, can you create a clear functional requirement that can be captured with a minimum number of screen comps or wireframes, somewhere between, I don't know, 10, 15 or less. We hear a lot about implementing these sort of neutral functional requirements, leave it up to the designers or the developers, give them what the software should do, but not how to do it. Depending on the size of the company that you're working for, many companies don't have designers, or they have a lot of junior developers, or maybe they have a lot of offshore development teams where continuity might be an issue. And it's really helpful in those situations to actually tell them how the system should do it. They can always come back with better ideas. That's great. But giving them these comps or wireframes that tell them how it should work allows you to create the document with comps and instructions or diagrams. It allows you to shrink down that document by showing pictures with some instructional design information on the side. So if you can do that and create those clearly without too many screens or too much elaboration, a mini requirement would probably work in that scenario as well. So you're looking for enhancements that don't create a lot of comps. If they're creating a lot of comps, a lot of different screen caps or wireframes, then a mini requirement might not satisfy, and you may have to go to a fuller requirements document. Number 9, you need, whatever you select, you need to meet the quality standards that your organization has created. Now, larger companies and some smaller mid-sized companies are going to set criteria for requirements documentation. And depending on that criteria, you may not be able to create a mini document. You may always have to have this more formal type, bigger document. And again, that doesn't mean you can't change their mind, because that's the job of the BA. It doesn't make sense to create a lot of extra verbiage and paperwork for something that can be taken care of in a much smaller document that's concise, to the point, and everybody can get rolling right away without reading through tons of text that this formal process has put in place, and it doesn't serve a good purpose. So again, check to see if your company has any standards, and if they don't, create the standards for the company so that going forward it's consistent and across the board evenly done. And the 10th solution, the 10th thing that you should look at is the solution easy or self-evident? Does it require lots of discussion or design sessions? Is the solution, it's very straightforward, it's easy to implement, there it is, we sort of all know what we want, what we need, what the user needs, I should say, and it's easy to implement. That's that overall solution. You're looking at that and saying to yourself, and you're weighing, is it self-evident? Does it have what it needs right here without us delving any deeper? And again, if it's not, and it requires more than, a couple of design sessions or a couple of discussion meetings, it may wind up branching off into a much bigger document. So those are our top 10 things that you should look for if you're trying to decide whether you're going to go with a mini document or a full-blown document. Now, again, there's probably other things you can look out for. I mean, these are just our top 10. And it really does, it helps you to take a look at it from, the different perspectives of of all the components sort of at an evaluative level as to whether to use the mini or the full. So let's just take a quick little break here. We're through our top 10, and it's not going to be too long of a show tonight. We're trying to keep it nice and concise and short, like a mini requirement would be. But we just want to let you know where you can find us out there. If you haven't, if Kathleen will put that pop up for us. As always, you can find us at our website, thebazone.com. We are on Instagram, Periscope, Facebook, and YouTube, and all the other places you can find us at. So please feel free, drop us comments, drop us lines. We always love to hear from everybody. Okay, so I don't think we have any, let me just double check and make sure we don't have any questions out there. No questions going on right now. Again, feel free. All right, so what should be in the midi? I feel like I'm talking about dress lengths from back in the 70s and the 80s. But anyway, what should be in the mini depends on the situation. It depends on the project that you're working on. Obviously, you have to have a really clear business objective and overview. It doesn't have to be elaborate. It can be a one page, but it has to clearly say, this is the need. This is how we think we're going to address it. These are the applications or application that is involved. This is the processes that are involved, and these are the roles that are involved. Very high level. It's just to give everyone the idea, is this, going to be user role specific, application specific, and exactly what is it we're going to be addressing, the business need we're going to be addressing. You absolutely should have what is in scope and what is out of scope. And again, when we're talking about a mini document, in scope could be a couple of sentences, one paragraph. What is out of scope and in scope, again, also could be broken down into phases. But typically, a mini requirement document is good for one phase. It's not going to be multiple phases that you would have in the fuller document. But again, if there are two micro mini phases, yeah, you could list them. What is out of scope? Again, just a few bullets. Out of scope for this iteration, may not be out of scope forever, just for this particular iteration, right? You're going to want to list the business rules. You're going to want to do it in a table, something that's really quick and easy. The business rules are labeled, and it's just sort of one atomic, down to the smallest level you can get it to, 111, just to make it very easy for people to understand. And again, you can do that with the functional rules as well as the validation rules. Now, after that, it sort of depends on your particular project. If use cases are required, again, we're not talking, 30 different use cases. We're talking, just a few use cases. That's the kind of thing that fits into a mini. You're not going to have an overcomplicated flow of positive and negative. So just a few use cases. You can do use cases. You could, if it's very simple and clear enough, you could use a use case diagram that has almost all the components of the use case. I mean, try to do that in a graphical picture. That's fine. And again, if you can include comps or wireframes to give a clear information of that. That's sort of your mini document components. Can you swap things in and out? Absolutely. If you standardize your requirements into templates where the components are modularized, so you can swap them in and out. So make sure your business rules are kept in a separate place and you can pull what you need into the document. Same thing with use cases. Keep them separate, pull them in. If you do that, you can quickly pull in components. And again, you don't want to pull in too many. If you are, then it's no longer a mini requirement, right? But definitely do that standardization of the templates, create a mini template, and create the full-blown template. Will you use all the components in each of them? Not always. You won't. And that's why you make them into nice little chunks that you can pull in and out. And the other thing too, whatever you're doing, is to make sure you're not being redundant with the requirements. I mean, this is sort of outside of the sphere of what goes in. but you don't want redundant requirements. You want to say it clearly, and you want to say it once in one place. If you say it in the business rules, saying it again a little differently in the use cases could be a problem. So say it in one place, say it clearly, and try not to be redundant, because there's too many places. If you change it here, you have to change it somewhere else. So those are the things that keep it a nice, tight little mini requirement document. And that's sort of it. That's you can do this. Anybody can do this. And really, there's plenty of times where you might not even need a mini. There might be enough of a label change. Say someone needs something added to a drop-down list. That kind of information can be documented in the request itself, especially if you're using some type of system that tracks your requests and the outcomes of those requests. So you just have to make sure that whatever are in those little documents or those little requests in that system are then updating your masters. So if someone adds something to a drop-down list and they just want to document it in the request system, that's fine. But you as the BA, take that little addition to the drop-down and add it to your main requirements, your main structure documents. And we talked about that a couple weeks ago, how to set up your folders and files to save that information and move it back and forth. So if you didn't see that, check it out. You can catch it on YouTube. So to wrap this up for tonight, whether you choose a full-blown requirements document, a mini document, a hybrid document, or a napkin. Yes, we've put requirements on a napkin before, believe it or not. And it went fine, but you have to have it very clearly indicated. Okay, whatever you're using, you as the BA are responsible for defining and documenting clear, concise, and complete requirements for your given situation. But you do have options. You have lots of options. Just remember to be consistent and create a template and make that template modular so that you can swap the components in and out. So that people know what to expect. They know what to expect when they see your full-blown document. They know what to expect when they see the mini document, okay? So again, we hope tonight's show will help you decide which type of document layout you're going to use for your next project. And as always, if you have any questions or comments, or you want us to tackle a particular subject in an upcoming show, don't be shy. Just go to and visit our website, thebazone.com. Drop us a line. We don't bite. We're very friendly. We're here to help you and get you what you need. And again, we can answer any of your questions either privately through the email or through a show. So please let us know, and let us know if this is helpful for you. We'd like to hear that. We know that. We'd like to hear that we're helping people out at least a little bit, right? So please, again, and thanks for dropping by, and we really do appreciate. We know you have a lot of things going on, so we'll see you next week. And until then, keep smiling and have a great weekend. Good night, everybody. Take care.